She is. I'm early.
How you doing?
Doing great. I want to make sure my stuff was working. Let me turn off my own self. So how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Doing good. Can you see me okay? Because I got my camera up here.
Yep.
So, a couple of things. How do you say your middle part of your name?
It's arm connect, like arm connected to your shoulder.
Arm connect. Okay. I was butchering the hell out of that. You know, LinkedIn has, and my name's terrible too, but LinkedIn has this feature now where you can pronounce your name.
I saw that. Yeah. So how do you pronounce your last name?
Oh, it's crazy. Stasieczko.
Stasieczko.
Perfect.
Stasieczko.
But it doesn't pronounce the way it looks.
Yeah. No, not at all.
Well, I think a lot of times when they came to Ellis Island, they didn't speak English. So they would just
right.
That's where you got shoemaker and all that other stuff too.
Right. Exactly.
So let's see, a couple of things. We're just going to have a conversation. I think leadership development, employee development in a time of COVID is a great conversation. I mean, obviously people need to probably address things they thought they knew.
Uh-huh.
But your company is Executive Velocity, right?
Correct.
Okay. You were a Vistage chair for about 13 years, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not that anymore. Just too much.
I got too busy.
I've been interested in that group for a long time. There's a guy out of Chicago I keep kind of pinging back and forth.
Who do you know in Chicago?
Now that I said that, I can't remember his name.
Oh, okay.
I never met him, but every time I go there, we're gonna meet, and I just never finished it. But I loved your saying on your website, "Good isn't good enough."
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big point. And I had a guy on from Nashville who owns he's about a $45 million office products company. They sell pencils and stuff. But I had him on and we talked about generational culture.
Oh, yeah.
So they've built a really nice culture in his company based on the fact that they have these 3 different generations in there. It was very interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you're addressing any of that or if you do that in your
a little. My philosophy is that, millennials get a bad rap, and each generation has something to offer the other generations. And just because you're in a generation doesn't mean that you act like that generation.
Yeah, well, I agree. First of all, I always say the baby boomers and Generation X built some great technology. The millennials are showing us how to use it.
Yeah, right.
Because we thought being successful was working 100 hours a week.
Right.
Being successful is ignoring our families and doing all the stuff you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
The millennials, they think that's insane. So they do want that life-work balance.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Is there anything you want me to hit on for sure? Like a question that defines you or anything like that?
I think from a question perspective, one that would be good would be, what are the things that I am seeing with leaders today that they've had to make shifts because of working virtually?
Okay, COVID. Okay,
yeah.
That's really the topic, I think. And let's try to drive a conversation that there is a need. I think it's interesting because you're fresh to my audience. These organizations always talk to the same people, which I try to shake that up a little bit. So I think we'll be all right. We probably go about 10, 12 minutes. That's kind of the sweet spot, I think.
Okay, cool.
If it's a good conversation, we just keep going. Because it's not, the thing about the video is a lot of people say, oh, I saw a video 15 minutes, I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing more and more is that they're not watching them. They're listening to them.
Got it.
So they're really treating them almost like a podcast, because before anything over 2 minutes was a podcast.
Right. Yeah.
People got used to that, but YouTube makes it so easy.
Yes.
If you think about it yourself, how many times do you actually watch the YouTube? Unless it's something that you want to watch because it's an action thing. But if it's just
right,
talking, a lot of times you're just listening. So I don't think I do get about an 87% retention.
Oh, that's great.
On the YouTube channel. So I don't really have the audience there. It's really on LinkedIn.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm at 470 subscribers on YouTube. So most of my audience is probably baby boomers.
Yeah.
They're not on YouTube.
Right.
For them to subscribe, it's a big ordeal. They just don't do it. But I am going down lower in age, which is kind of interesting. So,
Oh, that's good.
yeah. So,
You need that.
yeah. All right. So, Beth, Arm Connect. That's kind of interesting. That is bizarre. Beth, Arm Connect, Bill. I thought I was going to really stumble on that one.
It's actually a lot easier than it looks.
It's a whole lot easier than mine, I guess. Yeah. The only thing I want to edit is the front and the back. If we really screw something up really bad, we'll redo it.
Okay.
Like it, but normally it doesn't. You know what we want to get across.
I like the shorts.
Oh yeah, I got to wear my shorts. Good thing that's the life of virtual.
Yeah, I've got shorts on too.
The people that sell clothes are really upset because you only buy the coats, t-shirts.
Exactly.
Really change it big time. All right, you got your smile. Here we go. It's the end of the day with Ray. This is a Saturday special. Folks, I'm really excited today because I have a lady that is a fantastic executive coach. I met her online in that digital landscape. Her name is Beth Armconnect Miller. She owns a company called Executive Velocity. And Beth, it's fantastic to have you on the end of the day with Ray. How are you doing?
I am doing great, Ray. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Well, I had a fellow from Nashville. He owns an office products group, and he was talking about generational culture and how you have to lead through that generational culture. I was doing a little studying after we had talked, and you have a saying on Beth's website, so go to executivevelocity.com. But the saying right when you get to her home page is good isn't good enough. And, I would add any more for sure, but good isn't good enough, and we have to figure out how we're going to make not only our teams great, but a lot of times leaders themselves are missing some things that could help them be great. So what are you seeing today, Beth, just in the COVID-19 atmosphere?
I'm seeing a lot, Ray. From a leadership perspective, there's had to be a lot of shifts made pretty quickly. And now that leaders are into kind of the routine of connecting virtually or coming back into the workplace, one of the areas I see a lot of stress on is that leaders are more focused on employee well-being than they were in the past. They understand that each individual has a certain personal situation that they're dealing with at home that's impacting how they're performing. So they're being very mindful about connecting with employees on a personal level first and doing that kind of check-in of, hey, what can I be doing for you to help you through this? Now, that's all great, but one of my concerns is that many of these leaders, while they're helping their employees, they're not paying attention to themselves and giving themselves the care that they need. The exercise, the mindfulness, meditation, whatever it is for that leader to regenerate. It's kind of like the saying of, put the oxygen mask on first and then help somebody else out. Well, that's something that I'm encouraging many leaders because they're worn out. And we're all worn out, but if you're so worn out, you can't be present with your employees and really help them.
Well, that's a great point. And I like the oxygen mask scenario. We've all been on planes many times and heard that. But, I would imagine during these times, and you're exactly right, leaders, they care about their people, they always have. They're trying to build the greatest teams they have. Are you, when you talk to these leaders, are they actually spending a lot of time on the Zoom or whatever apparatus they're using in one-on-ones with their people where they really didn't spend the time before?
Yeah, they are, but I would say that many of them pre-COVID were having those one-to-one conversations. If they weren't, then there's a bit of a hurdle there of really trying to build up that trust and communication with the individual virtually versus in person. But yeah, that one-to-one conversation is really important. And I think that those leaders who have the ability to meet with individuals on a really regular basis can really help those individuals through the transition that they're having to make at home.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of leaders, especially, let's take leaders of my generation, 60, 65 or 70-year-old leaders, we try to say that we're compassionate, but sometimes the way we grew up in our business world, it was a tough world, and we seem to be a little bit tougher sometimes than some of the younger generation. Do you have programs to kind of help those leaders? First of all, we got to teach them how to be a little bit more compassionate. And second of all, we got to teach them that well-being and the importance of well-being in their employees is important. It used to be, it was all about the company. And I hate to think that there's people still that manage that way, but there is. And sometimes you have to admit that. And, there's nothing like a disaster to slap people in the face to make us change the ways.
Right. Yeah.
Do you help leaders through that?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about in my words is empathy. Mm-hmm. And that's a big portion of emotional intelligence, which is something that I do work with leaders on and actually train them on how to improve their emotional intelligence. Unlike IQ, EQ is something that you can build and improve on. So those things are like understanding yourself and your emotions and managing those emotions. Because if you can't manage the emotions, you're not going to be able to connect and build relationships with others. And then it's about then being able to read how you are impacting others to create a stronger relationship. So I would say that, yeah, emotional intelligence is probably a cornerstone for all leaders. In fact, there's been studies showing that emotional intelligence, a high level of emotional intelligence, leads to leadership success. So I was actually doing some training down in Florida. Oh gosh, this was probably about a year or so ago. And this woman, we went and assessed everybody's emotional intelligence through an online assessment. And when she got it back, she said, yeah, now I realize why I'm not as far up in the organization as I think I should be. Mm-hmm. And the great thing about her and her profile was she was very goal oriented. So all of a sudden she was clear about her goal. Mm-hmm. and she created a plan to improve her emotional intelligence. And since that time, she's gotten a promotion. So in fact, she reached out to me recently and thanked me for kind of alerting her to a challenge that she had that she needed to fill a gap.
So let me ask you, as part of your service, do you help the leader through virtual? I guess, of course, now we're not traveling, as you know. So, you can bring the leader and probably have a one-on-one with the leader, and then maybe the leaders. And
yes, yeah. I mean,
do you go to the organization as well, directly to the workers and the people?
Yeah, I mean, normally it would be a blend. Right now, it's pretty much virtual. But my goal for organizations is to have leaders who can develop future leaders, so that they have a leadership pipeline, so that at any point in time, if you have an opening from a leadership perspective, you've got somebody in the organization that is ready and prepared to step into that position. Too often, especially smaller organizations, they're focused on kind of the here and now. Mm-hmm. They set up a strategic plan, but they don't then look at their people and their organization and determine, okay, what does the organization need to look like to support that business plan moving forward? And it's a lot of that is about identifying your talent, those high potentials, and developing them to that next position of leadership.
Well, I got to tell you, I think that, let me ask you a question. Right now, during COVID, we're seeing a lot of businesses struggling extremely to the point where a lot of them are just going away.
Yeah.
Are you finding yourself helping some of these organizations that are on the brink of that? And, you know, is there anything you could suggest to help people that maybe in their mind they're there, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm at my wit's end.
Yeah. I've been fortunate where I haven't had that situation kind of on the brink. I've got a couple of clients who have had to pivot, and they pivoted early. And you know, through the PPP, that was a huge help to get them through that process. And you know, the industries that I work in are generally not the industries that are highly impacted. You know, I'm not in the retail and hospitality industry, for instance. Those industries, you know, that's not going to recover to pre-COVID. There's going to be a lot of smaller businesses that just don't make it and probably have already shut down. Most of my companies that I work with are professional service organizations, software, technology, staffing agencies that, you know, they were the ones that had to do a quick pivot because people weren't hiring, but they were needing temporary help. So there was a pivot there. Payrolling, that a couple clients there, the numbers dropped, obviously. People, the employee, or not the employees, but the companies that they were supporting didn't have as many employees, so their revenue dropped.
Yeah. When you talk to these organizations, you know, I have a great thought that I came up with a long time ago. And basically, I think that most people believe that relationships are the key factor in how they succeed. And even though relationships are extremely important, I pivot that and say that it's really about the experiences through those relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Relationships on their own, you know, they come and go. We all know that. So, you know, how does a leader today that's sitting there in this COVID environment, you know, and maybe they are really conscious to the tune that they have to make sure their employees have well-being, and they're doing everything that they can in that area, and they're having these one-offs. But is there anything a leader can assess on their own? You know, is there three things? What are the three bullets, if you will? I mean, nothing's that easy, I'm sure. But, you know, how does a leader sitting there maybe watching this say, you know, maybe I ought to reach out to you or someone like you? Maybe I should really explore the things that I think I might know that I don't.
Yeah, I think that, you know, as a leader, there's probably some questions that they could ask themselves to self-reflect. And one of them is, you know, how well do I know where my employees are? Meaning from an anxiety, fear, etc. You know, and once I say that, you know, okay, I know that individual in the situation really well. What information do I have that supports that? Okay, it's oftentimes I'll ask leaders a question about like their team. You know, how would you rate your team? And they would say, oh, I'll rate them an 8 out of 10. Okay, and what makes it an 8? And you really dig into and self-reflect on the question. I think the other is, you know, what am I doing that I can be doing differently? And that's a question that you can ask yourself, but I really encourage leaders to reach out to their employees and ask for feedback and be very genuine about that, the question, in a way that, you know, you don't get defensive, and you get the information and you thank them and you do something with it. You know, sometimes there'll be something that the employee requests that is out of your control, and be honest with them about that. You know, I hear that, but that isn't something I can provide you at this point in time. It's generally some sort of resource, right? And it's outside the budgetary constraints. But those asking for feedback from others is something that not enough leaders do. And it's a powerful way of developing yourself by getting curious with others about how you are viewed and what you can be doing differently to improve your leadership.
Well, I think everybody has to do a self-evaluation. Everybody has to seek out those that can help them do things they can't. And that's what partnerships are for. And, during this time, I mean, this is probably the worst we've ever seen it, if anybody alive today. I mean, this is a tough time we're all in. But it's people like you, Beth, and there's resources out there for all of our friends. I mean, they are there. And I appreciate you having you on the end of the day with Ray. Is there anything you want to add before we end?
Just my final thought is that if individuals are looking for additional resources through this process, my website, executive-velocity.com, has a lot of free downloads related to hiring, developing leaders, and succession planning.
And I'll put a link to that on this video as I post it onto LinkedIn. And Beth, it was fantastic having you on. I look forward to having you again because, Beth, we all know this: status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and we'll see you all on Monday. That was a perfect mark. I don't know how I can do that sometimes.
Cool.
It's right at the 15. Do you think we hit it right?
Yeah, I think so. It was great.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. It opens up the door, makes people think a little bit. You're different. If you're in my space, there's about 2,000 copier dealerships around the country. Actually, Australia is a big part of my group. But
oh, really?
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff in Australia.
Huh. I've got some friends in Melbourne. They're in heavy lockdown right now.
Yeah, that was kind of nutty. They made them all quarantine. Then someone decided to bring in, the sex workers or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, crazy.
But no, Australia is awesome. I was there in January. It's funny because I was in Zhuhai, China in October.
Oh my gosh.
Right before the thing started.
Wow.
I went to Australia in January. And when I got back, we had about 3-4 weeks and we started shutting down. So I was lucky I wasn't stuck there. But,
yeah, I was actually in New Zealand in March.
No, I haven't been there. I'd love to go there.
Oh, New Zealand's beautiful.
When you go there, don't you just want to stay there though?
Yes. Well, and the thing was, we were
now.
Yeah, we were there for a week, and we were supposed to get on a cruise to head to Tahiti and stop off on a number of islands. And when we got on the ship, they announced that Tahiti, which was the last stop, had been shut down for cruises. And I'm like, well, why the hell are we even here then? So we got off the ship and flew out the next day. But my husband and I were talking. We're like, gee, this would be a really nice place to stay. But if we stay, can we get back there to the States? Or, it was all kind of crazy. So.
Yeah. Well, it would have been nice to stay there through the virus since they licked it in like a month.
Oh, yeah.
It's called discipline. We don't have
it.
Well, thanks, Beth. I appreciate having you on.
Thank you.
I'll tag you when I post it.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the weekend.
We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.